Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Edens, a finance coach, author, and wealth mindset researcher, and I'm so happy you've decided to join me here in the studio today. Welcome to all my new subscribers. I know we had a whole bunch of new people join our community just in the past week, so I want to say thank you so much for showing support for my channel and what we're doing here with unlocking our inner millionaire and learning how to build our wealth mindset, grow our finance skills, and for showing your support for our community by hitting that subscribe button. And for all of the rest of you who are watching, if you consider subscribing as well, it's free, and that way you'll get notifications if you hit that notification bell. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to bring you this 4-part holiday budget planning series. I know it's a little bit early, but I feel like October is kind of the starting gate for when we start this sprint through from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas or Hanukkah, depending on which winter holidays you celebrate. But it is just an absolute sprint here in the US, just from one holiday to the next. And that can really start to add up. And so what I wanted to do was do a series now so that you can start to plan and be proactive this year so that this year doesn't run you into a lot of holiday debt. Really interesting survey that was done recently found that in the holiday season of 2022, American households ran up over $1,500 on average in credit card debt just from holiday shopping. And that for many of them, they didn't have that extra $1,500 sitting around. And so they ended up having to just make payments on all of their holiday expenses for months. So a lot of them said it took them about 5 months to get their credit card debt paid off from the holidays. So you don't want your credit card shopping expenses from the holidays to turn into a gift that keeps on giving with, having to continue to pay interest on your credit card balances and just end up with a lot of January blues, not just because the holidays are over, but also because those bills just start to roll in and add up. So I really thought this would be a great opportunity to roll out a series here so that you can just start planning ahead. And it's got lots of helpful tips and tricks, really useful information. And I'll also have a download that you can download and print out with all of this and more. And so if you head over to my website at sarahedens.com/newsletter, you can click there to sign up for my updates, and I'll send you out my debt-free holiday planning guide. So come and join us over there. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. So let's get started on part 1 of this guide to your debt-free holiday season. And I've got to say, it has just gotten harder and harder for myself personally to juggle all those holiday expenses with inflation and with the inflated cost of everything, particularly if you think about how much inflated cost we're still seeing at the grocery store on food. That has not come down, even though overall inflation numbers are technically dropping. Things like food and obviously housing costs and things haven't come down at all. And so going into the holidays, if you're already feeling the crunch from inflation, and then a lot of the holidays is about gathering with loved ones to eat special meals, which is fantastic, but all those special meals tend to have components that tend to cost a lot more. Maybe you're doing a lot of entertaining, so you're buying a lot more wine or cocktails or things like that that can really start to add up. And it can just really be very understandable how easy it is to run up credit card debt through the holidays. I've done it myself before. And if you want to join me on a debt-free holiday season challenge, comment in the comment section below. Leave me a comment that you want to join in on debt-free holidays. You can just say debt-free holiday 2023 or something like that. And let's take this challenge together. I'll also be posting a lot about this over on Instagram, so you can follow me there at Sarah Edens Financial. So a lot of fun little things just to hopefully help us all, myself included, have some tools in our toolkit to get to January and not be overwhelmed by a big old snowball of holiday debt. So the very first thing that you want to start with keeping those expenses in check for the holidays is, and this is maybe a no-brainer, but the first one is to get your credit card balances completely paid off going into this holiday season. And that way, if you do end up running a little bit of a balance, it's not on top of a snowball that you already had. I know a lot of people right now are carrying a lot on their credit cards and just making minimum payments just because we've been through so much kind of bumpy economic times the last couple years. So people are maybe overly reliant on their credit cards than they used to be. And so there's no shame in that at all. It's not that that's bad. And I hope a whole series on credit use that I'll link to in the description as well if you want to learn more about using credit cards in a way that works for you instead of against you. But the fact is, you might be coming into this holiday season running some credit card debt. So if you can get that paid off, that's a really good first step to just get that all paid off and cleared out. And importantly, too, if you're a federal employee, a federal contractor, active duty military member, your spouse's active duty military member, you really want to pay attention to this because of the 45-day extension that Congress voted in that gives us kind of a grace period from a government shutdown that is going to last through November 17th. And then they're going to have to, potentially we'll see if they can get a budget passed between now and the 17th of November. But particularly with that in mind, if you're a federal worker, federal contractor, or military family, really good year to be very careful with how much you're planning to spend for the holidays. Make sure to keep those credit card balances paid off going into the holidays, and maybe consider just scaling back your purchases until we see what happens on the 17th, because obviously if they don't get a budget passed on by the 17th of November, we're looking at a government shutdown in our future yet again. And that could lead to a very unpleasant holiday season just in time for Thanksgiving and Christmas and potentially New Year's for a lot of people who are salaried by the federal government. So the only people who have a guaranteed paycheck through the end of this year are Federal Aviation Administration employees, FAA. And so that is, if you're a FAA employee, you're good to go. Otherwise, all the rest of us, ourselves included as a military family, are still looking at there being some uncertainty about if we're going to get paid during the holiday season. So keep that in mind as well as you just kind of manage the next couple of months. It's not something we normally deal with. But we did have that government shutdown in 2018 to 2019, which was ended when 10 FAA employees walked off the job and to protest having no pay for 34 days. And on the 35th day of that shutdown, because of the air traffic nightmare from the air traffic controllers walking off the job, that ended the shutdown. So the politicians are being careful to pay our air traffic controllers so that we don't have a repeat of that, which I think is really interesting. But for the rest of us, just a good thing to keep in mind that we do want to be a little bit more on the conservative side going into the next 3 months while we see how all of this goes. It's annoying to have to think about going into the holiday season, but also important. And I've got a government shutdown series that I filmed last week that I'll link to in the description as well. Well, it's 2 weeks ago now. And I'll link to that in the description as well if you want to catch up on everything. And I've got a lot of resources for how to prepare if we see a shutdown after the 17th or any other time in the future. So that's the first one, is get those credit card balances paid off. Number 2 is make your list and check it twice. So if Santa Claus can make his holiday list of who's been naughty and who's been nice, then you can make your list too about all the different expenditures that you want to make during the holidays. So you want to just, and this is what I'll have in my download as well, as part of that's going to be a spreadsheet where you can be able to kind of list out some things that will help you plan your holiday budget. If you're making your own, then you're looking at things like specific people who you're giving gifts to and how much you want to spend on each person. So that might be people in your family, it might be your children, it might be extended family, neighbors, all of this, just all the people in your life that you want to show appreciation for this time of year. So kind of start looking at a budget for that. You want to also think about food, like specific items that you're going to be buying for the holidays, like turkey for Thanksgiving or something special for a holiday meal. If you do more entertaining, you'd be looking at all of kind of the entertaining costs of either dining out, having things catered. If you're just buying food and cooking it yourself, you want to add that in. You want to look at the price of holiday decor, gift wrap, all the Christmassy seasonal things that are so much fun but can start to really add up after a while. And just really get a good number for kind of what you're looking at for your whole holiday budget. And then compare that to your kind of what you have to spend right now, and then bring that kind of in balance so that you have a good feel for what you'd like to do in an ideal situation of all the people you'd like to give gifts to, all the decorating you'd like to do, Christmas tree, all the entertaining that you'd like to do. If you have any holiday travel that you're planning to do, start pricing out airfare and hotels now, rental cars, all of this. So it's just a really good habit to get into of just before you enter a period that tends to be a time when we all spend more money for one reason or another in the last 3 months of the year. Around the holidays, just start planning ahead so that you are very strategic about what you're going to be spending on. And then number 3 is, armed with your holiday expenses list, you're ready to set your holiday budget. So you've got all your expenses, you've kind of got a good feel for exactly what you're looking at in terms of how much everything's going to run you. Then you want to compare that with your current budget and look and see, okay, how much do we have to play with that we could dedicate towards holiday spending over the next couple of months. And a couple of years ago, and I haven't done this lately because I spend a lot less on the holidays now than I used to, but a few years ago, I got the idea from this really good book, which you've seen me talk about before. This is The Budget Kit by Judy Lawrence. I'll link to this in the description. And she suggested actually making a holiday savings line item in your budget so that annually, as you go month to month, you have a specific holiday savings category. And so you're just putting money aside every single month for these holiday expenses. And then when you get to October, November timeframe, you've got all that money saved up. And you could even look at putting it, if you haven't done this year, don't worry about it, but maybe for next year, you could start looking at this, maybe pick out a high yield savings account or just a regular savings account at your bank. Although high yield is nice because it gets you a little bit more interest while it's just sitting there. It'll make you a little bit and keep up with inflation slightly better. And then that way you're just building up your savings account that you're then going to spend at the holidays. So that's something to think about for maybe next year if you haven't done it. If you're going into this holiday season and you haven't been really planning ahead and you've made that holiday list and then you look at your actual budget and you're like, oh my goodness, these aren't matching up, then that's really where you're going to have some, honesty with yourself and maybe with your family about maybe this year's going to be different from other years. And that is absolutely okay. We have been through a lot of crazy stuff economically the last few years. So, Christmas might look a little bit different this year, and that's absolutely fine. Through the holiday season, you want to make sure you're continuing to prioritize your financial well-being. So that's things like not getting into a lot of holiday credit card debt just to try to give gifts to everybody in your life that you normally give gifts to, or running up a lot of holiday expenses, trying to do a lot of entertaining or travel a lot to see people that you feel like you should go visit, or you visited in the past when you had a little bit more money in your budget. So it's absolutely fine to just have that kind of moment if you need to look at the list of maybe what you normally spend on or what you'd like to spend on and how much money you have to work with this year and say, we might have to scale it back a little bit. Maybe you don't and everything's working out and it's lining up, so you're not going to be running a ton of debt going into January. But if you are needing to scale back things a little bit, that's absolutely fine. And better to realize that now than in January and you've got this big snowball of debt on your shoulders weighing you down. So really, really important to just think all that through and kind of set your expectations so that you're not jeopardizing your savings goals over the holidays. You're not jeopardizing your investment goals over the holidays. If you invest in your portfolios, you can still keep contributing to those, and just not setting yourself back financially trying to live up to maybe Christmases you've had in the past or expectations from family and friends of how you always do things and they're expecting you to do it again this year. And sometimes too, maybe you even have the money, but you really want to rethink the way you do the holidays. And there's a really, really good resource that I just ran across again for you. This is a really, really great little book. It's called Calm Christmas and Happy New Year. A Little Book of Festive Joy, and it is by Beth Kempton. And if you don't have money to buy her book, Beth has a wonderful Christmas podcast that she's released the last couple of Christmases. It only comes out at Christmas because she just has this wonderful, fun, seasonal theme to her podcast. But if you look up Beth Kempton on podcasts, on like any of the podcast hosts, you'll find it there. And she just is really good about helping kind of set expectations for the holidays for yourself, for your loved ones. Give yourself a better chance of actually having a nice holiday season, because I don't know about you, but it's 50-50 come January, whether I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad the holidays are over, or if I'm like, oh, that was so much fun, that we made so many great memories, and wasn't that wonderful? It's about 50-50 if I arrive after Christmas and have had a good time or not, have spent my money the way I wanted to or not, or I'm just relieved it's over and we survived it. So I really like the way that she kind of helps you approach the holidays with mindfulness, with joy, and really with being able to look at the things that you want for yourself out of the holiday season, rather than feeling pressure from either the way you feel like things should be done, or the way that maybe you have family expectations for the way things should be done. Maybe you want to make some changes this year and be able to focus more on experiences than gifts. And that also can help save quite a bit of money and build better memories as well that way. So that's a really good resource for you if you're kind of wanting to go into the holidays with a little bit more mindful approach and be more strategic, not just with your budget, but with how you approach the celebrations in general. And let's have a look here. Okay, and then number 4 is you can also, and this is another kind of planning ahead tool, but you can budget year-round for holiday shopping. And we talked about that as well, where, in fact, did I miss something? No, I did not. I have actually already gotten ahead of myself, and we've talked about point 4. Aren't I good? But yes, that whole idea of having that holiday savings account that you have set aside every single month, you put so much money into it every month. And then that way, when you hit the holidays and you want to get your Christmas tree and you want to get your holiday food and buy presents for the kids and presents for the neighbors and, take friends out to coffee and entertain and travel to see family. That way you've got all of your money kind of set aside already, rather than putting it on the credit card and trying to figure out how to pay for it later. I mean, I feel like in today's society that we live in, I don't know if it's the pressure to consume that drives this, or inflation, or maybe some of both. But I feel like the overarching thing we get pushed into is, oh, I'll figure out how to pay for that later, and I'll just put it on the credit card and I'll figure out how to pay for it later. Have you ever walked into that trap? Because I know I absolutely have. Credit cards are just really easy to get into that, where you're like, you know what, screw, we'll just throw the budget out the window this month and have a good time, and we'll just figure out how to pay for it later. And I'm not saying that's, wrong or anything. Life's short, and it is important to be able to enjoy yourself, and money is a tool, just like many other things in life. But it's just, I think that with credit cards, we can just run into that issue where it's just all too easy to just be like, well, we'll figure out how to pay for it later. And then later comes, and then you've got other expenses later that you also need to pay for. And it just can turn out to be where you're just constantly chasing that place where you've got your credit cards paid off and you're just constantly racking up interest, and your credit cards are really starting to set you back financially. So this is all kind of resources for you to be proactive. And if you haven't really thought about this before, that's absolutely okay. I know that the budget kit was what introduced me to the whole concept of having a holiday savings fund in the first place. And that was a real game changer for me, and certainly made the holidays less stressful. Like I said, these days we've got a pretty minimalist approach to the holidays. I'm going to talk to that in another part of my series here about that. But it's everyone's decision kind of how much they want to really go all out over the holidays. And so whatever works best for you, but these will kind of help you manage that debt snowball in January, and hopefully not have one, or at least have it be a little snowball and not a snowman. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. Again, if you want to join my debt-free holiday challenge, just comment below debt-free holiday 2023 and let me know that you're joining in, and come follow me over on Instagram, where probably about November, we'll be starting up a whole bunch of more fun things to be able to kind of have this ongoing challenge of managing all the marketing and all the expectations and the consumerism that can really come in the last 3 months of the year, which is crazy that we're already there. We're already in October, and here we are with just 3 months left to go in 2023. So very exciting that way. Well, thank you so much for joining me here in the studio this afternoon. I am so happy that you're here, and I will see you again in my next video.